Before time began, before mankind had a name, the universe was a pristine essence of light and divine will. There was no day, no night, no form or identity, only a gentle vibration, spreading like the oldest symphony ever to exist. In that eternal essence, light was the only language, and God the unseen conductor, both creator and harmonizer of all things. There was no conflict, no ambition, no opposition. Everything moved like an invisible dance, each atom singing its holiness. And from that light, he created a being, not a man, not from clay, but from concentrated light, an angel, yet not just any angel. He had no feathered wings, no flaming sword. He was the embodiment of absolute light, a sentient galaxy, a melody capable of love. They called him Lucifer, the light-bearer. He wasn't just beautiful, he was beauty itself. Every gesture, every motion wove from the breath of the cosmos. And he was wise, so wise he could read the music of life, decode truth from light itself. The other angels bowed, not out of fear, but admiration. His footsteps were a prelude to triumph. His gaze and voice silenced all of heaven. If the angels were stars, he was the sun. If heaven was a grand symphony, he was its most radiant chorus. And yet, a question arises. If he was the perfect light, why did he become the darkest shadow? What happened to the most beloved being in all the realms of light? Could it be that evil wasn't born, but twisted from pride within what was once good? If light can fall, is the light within you truly safe? We often fear the dark, but forget that the most dangerous thing is when light assumes itself eternal. Thus begins our journey, not in the earthly realm, not among mortals, but within heaven itself, where conflict was thought impossible. There, the first seed of pride was sown. Lucifer, bathed in divine brilliance, began to gaze upon himself, and saw perfection. He no longer just served the light. He believed he was the light. His music no longer worshipped, it possessed. Each note no longer honored God, but reminded others of who he was. Each glance, every word of praise, became sweet wine, intoxicating his soul. And then, one day, a thought bloomed. If I am created this perfect, perhaps I deserve the throne. That throne, singular and sacred, reserved for the Creator. But within the heart of the light-bearer, a crack spread, silently. Not a shout, a whisper, a glance, a thought, a subtle doubt. And so began the first rebellion, not with war, but with a gaze. Lucifer no longer saw God as one to worship, but as a rival. A rival who held the throne too long. And in that light, a shadow bloomed, but it didn't stop there. Lucifer whispered to others, "We can build a new heaven," he said, "one without laws, without limits, without submission, a place where freedom is the highest faith." And a third of the angels listened, not because they were evil, not because they hated God, but because they believed in freedom. They were drawn to a new vision. They saw in Lucifer a possibility no one dared name, a replacement. And so, the first divide tore through heaven. A once harmonious symphony, now fractured. But God did not rage. He simply asked, "Do you choose yourself, or choose life?" Lucifer didn't answer. He only looked. And for the first time, he believed he could win. And then, He cast him down, not with thunder, not with flame, but by stripping him of glory. Lucifer, the light-bearer, fell from heaven. His light extinguished into a burning black flame. And since that moment, he was no longer light. He became a darkness with a mind. But remember, Lucifer was never destroyed. He still exists, in every overreaching ambition, every quiet thirst for dominion. Are you sure he has never whispered into your mind? We all carry within us a part of the light and a part of Lucifer. Because true light never fears questions. But pride cannot stand to be reminded. And the story has only just begun. Lucifer didn't vanish. He didn't fall and dissolve like a shattered rain. He changed form, no longer a beam of sacred light. He became smoke, a smoke that could slip through the narrowest cracks, the quietest corners, and the most dangerous. He didn't scream. He didn't need claws or blades. What he used were whispers. You deserve more. You're better than this. Why bow to rules that no longer serve you? And ever since, every time a person pushed aside their conscience, every time someone chose self over soul, his voice echoed faintly in the dark corners of their being. Lucifer became a symbol, a living force, fed by self-righteousness, ambition, and the desire to surpass all limits. You may have never heard his voice directly, but you've seen that look in the mirror. That moment when you know what's right, but still choose what's easy. He's no longer in hell. He's here, in corporate meetings where power trades hands for integrity, in bedrooms where silence replaces honesty, on social media where smiles hide loneliness. And just like that, the rebellion never ended. Lucifer doesn't need to seduce. He only needs to plant a thought, a question, a tiny doubt in what's holy. Does God really love you? Are these laws truly for life, or chains in disguise? He doesn't make you sin. He lets you choose your own hell, while still believing you're in heaven. And that is why this story must be told. Not to judge, not to scare, but to remind you that light and darkness do not live outside of you. They live within. Lucifer is still waiting for your choice. And Malachi was the last man who dared to say it aloud. Not with threats, but with truth. The bell is still ringing. Can you hear it? Malachi is not a well-known name. Among the legendary figures of Scripture, Abraham, Moses, Elijah, his name is often forgotten, as if he were merely an echo lost in the void. But precisely because he came last, his voice carried the farthest. Malachi arrived in a strange time, a time when people believed they were fine. The temple still stood, rituals were performed, prayers were offered, but faith had become a mask. Prayer turned into transaction. Belief was no longer light, it was social currency. And into that world, Malachi did not scream. He whispered, just as God had whispered into his ear. Behold, I am sending my messenger. Who will prepare the way before me? That messenger was him. Malachi didn't speak of hellfire. He spoke of the fire within man. A fire going dim, indifference, deceit, the slow erosion of the soul, day after day, until no one remembered what was sacred, or what was true. He did not condemn. He asked questions. Who among you offers sacrifice with an empty heart? Who comes to the temple, but leaves their soul at home? And then, he said something that shook even the priests. "You have defiled the altar of the Lord, not with blood, but with apathy," he said. The rebellion of Lucifer is repeating itself. Not with celestial warfare, but with the quiet absence of light. Lucifer no longer has to tempt. He merely waits for man to abandon the light. And so, Malachi warned. He prophesied of the great day, a day when the sun would darken, the earth would quake, and every false thing would be consumed by a fire no one could extinguish. "Behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, and all the arrogant and every evildoer will be stubble." His words were not punishment. They were a wake-up call. Because immediately after, he said, "But for those who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise, with healing in its wings." Healing. That word echoed like a promise amid apocalypse. Not everything will be destroyed, but what is true and luminous will be revealed. And Malachi, standing alone in the night, became the final voice to remind us. True light never abandons you. You only need to turn around. He spoke of Elijah, the one who would return to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. A short verse, yet the deepest prophecy of all. The healing of families, the healing of generations, the healing of a world. Because Lucifer's fall began with a gaze that turned away. The world's healing begins with eyes that look toward one another with love again. That is what Malachi left behind. Not strange scrolls, not dazzling miracles, but a bell, a wind, a different kind of whisper. A whisper from the light, sent to you, who are still here and still listening. Malachi is gone, but his words were never silent. All that's left is whether you will finally hear them. There's something strange about Malachi, even though he never lived in our time. He saw more than most ever will. Not with eyes, but with soul. He didn't see self-driving cars. He didn't see social media. He didn't see a world glowing with artificial light and breaking news alerts. But he saw something deeper. The cold, not the cold of weather, but of the heart. Malachi saw a time when humanity would live in endless noise, yet fail to hear the whisper of their own soul. A time when people would chase after thousands of synthetic lights, and lose the only light that ever truly leads them home. He said, "Behold, the day is coming, great and dreadful. And if you look around today, don't you see it? The sea turning red, volcanoes rising in fury, children growing up not knowing their fathers, fathers living next to their children, yet feeling like strangers. Wars no longer live on borders. They live inside the mind. We fight ourselves, every day. No need for fallen angels. No need for demons with swords. We already have enough weapons to destroy each other with indifference." And that is when Malachi's words return. Not to threaten, but to remind that the Son of Righteousness still rises. Not on the horizon, but within your chest. Have you ever felt lost, even when you had everything? Ever felt tired of pretending to be strong all the time? Have you heard that tiny voice inside you, calling you back? That's not a dream. That's not weakness. That is light. All you need to do is turn back. Believe that you were never made to be lost forever. And when you do, you won't just save yourself. You light a spark, so someone else, someone sitting in the dark, might see the way. This is not a lesson. This is not a sermon. This is not a film. This is a mirror for you to look into. And remember who you are. You are a soul once woven from light. You were once called by a sacred name. You are not a mistake. You are not your past. You are light, and you have always been light. And if today you feel weary, just whisper, "I'm coming back." The universe will hear you. Because when one person chooses light, darkness loses its grip. Sparkles, if this story reached your soul, comment below. I choose the light, not for others to see, but so you can see yourself again. And if you know someone standing between heaven and the abyss, share this story with them. Because maybe you are Malachi to someone out there.